NRL players will boycott the media from tonight's round. As pay negotiations with the National Rugby League break down, all match interviews, press conferences and media opportunities will be boycotted from today to Sunday each week. The media blackout will include next week's State of Origin series finale. Players are pushing for better pay and conditions and all benefits and support payments to return to pre-COVID levels. So joining us live now, Chief Executive of the Rugby League Players Association, Clint Newton. Clint, good to see you. Thanks for your time. So just spell this out for us. What exactly do you want?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Spoke to your brother this morning, so get two Stefanovic, so that's good.
Now you got the better one, you're going to say, right?
Yeah, well, that's for
anyway,
another time.
I digress.
So again, just to be clear, this isn't a pay war. If anyone wants to call this a war, it's a war on player rights. So again, players haven't asked for $1 more since December last year. Now, I know that it's a difficult thing to digest, but this is not about players wanting more money.
Isn't that what Burgess was hinting at yesterday, though?
No, there's a difference there around the fact that it's about the minimum salaries is different to the amount of money that is going to players. But again, this is really about player rights and about certain things that you just can't buy off. We're ready to negotiate today. We can end this dispute. All we're saying is that we need to get an independent industrial relations mediator to the table. Let's put our proposals side by side.
So what rights do you want? What rights are you arguing for that you don't have now?
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, the NRL want to introduce or have the ability to control how many more matches they put into the season schedule. You know, if a player, which we don't agree with, if you want the players to play more games, you have to reach agreement. That's no different to any other workplace. If you work Monday to Friday and they ask you to work Saturday, that requires a negotiation and a deal to be struck. The NRL wants to control and sell player data and personal information without complying with privacy laws. The NRL want to make sure that we have limited and restricted abilities to ensure their financial reporting is right. And they want to control how much players allocate to the various funds, including the RLPA.
So, I mean, if you want to introduce the control of more matches, wouldn't you want to play more matches? Doesn't the league want to be bigger with the introduction of another team? Wouldn't that be healthier for the league?
It becomes a health and safety issue, Pete. I mean, ultimately, this is the longest competition in the world. It's the most brutal and fast-paced game in the world. So we already have 2 trials, 24 games, plus Origin, plus finals, international matches. We had players last year playing over 30 NRL games. So again, I would suggest that we've got a fantastic product, but ultimately we shouldn't be in a position where the NRL can dictate terms to players about saying, we're just going to put on another match and we don't need to agree it with you.
So just to be clear, are you against the introduction of another team?
No, there's a difference between introducing another team and playing more matches. Again,
but you've got to play more matches if you're going to introduce another team.
No, not really. It just comes down to the amount of rounds that you play. If 18 teams were to come into the competition, you can still have 24 rounds.
Okay. I mean, this is all very getting quite confusing and complex, but media commitments.
Not really. It's not really.
Well, I mean, I just would have thought as a lover of the sport.
Don't let the NRL shouldn't be able to introduce more matches without player agreement. That's pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking as a fan of the game, though, wouldn't you want to play more games, though, have more teams in the league and make it a better competition?
How many games do we want? How many more games do we expect players to play? I mean, they have a finite career. We're talking about players that have an average of about 40, 45 games in their career. So, in fact, we should be trying to make sure that players have extended careers. Pete, I was at a club just this week. 27-year-old needs 2 hip replacements. Just had them.
Yeah.
You know, so again, we're not. Okay. We're not playing marbles. Players are out there playing for their fans, ripping and tearing each and every week. So therefore, if we want to introduce more matches, we think a fundamental right of the players is to reach agreement on that.
Okay. So media commitments are part of a contract, right? If they don't do them this weekend and so on and so forth, should they have pay docked then?
Well, that's up for the NRL to work through. Again,
Would that be fair, though?
We're forced into this position, Pete. I mean, ultimately, when the other party says take it or leave it, on this occasion, unfortunately, it's a leave it. And when the other party doesn't want to negotiate anymore, which we're willing to do, then you're left with very little options. The reality is, we're not the only stakeholder here that's struggling to get agreement. Unsigned and unresolved agreements are littered across our game when we don't have a CBA for NRL and NRLW players.
Okay.
No club licensing agreements, and we don't know where the grand final is.
If you really,
so again, yep.
Sorry, Clint. If you're really serious about it, I'm just almost out of time, but if you're really serious about it, though, I mean, above boycotting media interviews, would you consider boycotting playing at all?
Is that really where we want to get to, though?
But again, I mean, is that the next step? Is that the next step that you would consider taking if the NRL don't come to the party here?
Well, again, that's a question for the NRL. Do they actually want to force the players into positions like they already have?
Would you argue for that?
Would we argue to stand down a match?
To just not play, to step it up, basically.
Well, but again, Pete, it's called your Carl there. But again, Pete, we don't want to get to that point. Again, we're forced into a position. Whether we get there or not is largely out of our control.
Right, but it's on the table in terms of your view. Is that what you're suggesting? It's an option down the track?
Well, everything has to stay on the table. But, I mean, what a disappointing and appalling way that would end up if we're in a position where players think that there is no other option but to do that. We think there's an option.
But would you hesitate in doing that? I'm just trying to get from your point of view, is if this doesn't work out for you, this boycott of media, would you be arguing that your members should not play to step it up?
Well, we don't make those decisions on behalf of players. We have a very clear leadership structure in place. I'm led by players. We're a member-led organisation. Players will determine what they do and when they'll do it. We just have to present the options on the table. Right. We put forward the risks. We try and put forward the ways in which those risks can be mitigated, and then we have to leave it up to them to decide. I don't run a dictatorship program. So again, this is about what they want to do.
Clint Newton, thanks for your time.